So here we have Whiting has been to visit his mother, and he's going back to the circus again because he wants to talk to the trapeze artist. The trapeze artist is the man who is seeing Sarah, the woman that he has a crush on and took to an expensive lunch. Also, he finds himself strangely mystified and, if attracted isn't the word, in awe of a man who lives such an exciting life and so unlike his own. All right, here we go. All afternoon, Whiting's thoughts vacillated between Sarah and Nikolai. Did Sarah tell Nikolai about our lunch? Is he worried that I'll expose their relationship? Or is it the lunch itself that he wants to discuss? He tried to imagine what Nikolai might say and how he himself would react. Whiting arrived at the circus late in the second act. Instead of entering the tent, he circled around to the back to check for Sarah's car. Not finding it among the trailers, he wondered whether her absence was a coincidence. Did Nikolai ask her not to come so that we could talk? What could he have said to her? He paced back and forth outside the tent until he heard the aria that signaled Nikolai's act. He started inside, then checked himself, and instead waited in the dark. As he listened to the music, he imagined Nikolai's cape fluttering to the ring, the shadows moving across the ceiling and walls. Whiting closed his eyes and gave himself over to the music, felt its pull and sweep, let it flow over him as he stood alone under the stars. The band began the grand finale. There was applause mixed with footfalls on the metal bleachers. Whiting stepped aside and waited for the crowd to clear. As the last of the cars turned from the parking lot, he turned back to the backyard, the performers' enclosure. Nikolai stepped down from his trailer and greeted Whiting with an expression of undisguised pleasure. "I was going to look for you, but here you are." His smile deepened. "Wait here." He stepped back into his trailer and returned with 2 glasses and a bottle of Maker's Mark. "Follow me," said Nikolai. Nikolai led them up a hill in the darkness to where 2 wooden chairs leaned against a tree. "The night is so beautiful, I thought we could sit outside." He set down the bottle and glasses and opened the chairs. "Take a seat, Sam, please." He poured 2 whiskeys and handed one to Whiting. "We can talk here, undisturbed." Whiting took a drink. The whiskey warmed his throat and went down easily. After Friday night, he was wary of its effect, but he took another sip. He could feel himself relax. "How was the performance tonight, Nikolai?" "The equestrian was uneven. They'll be practicing in the tent now that everyone is gone." "Well," Whiting responded, "as you said the other night, the performance never ends." "In the circus, Sam, there are a few who seek perfection. It's never possible, of course, but it drives us forward." "And your performance?" asked Whiting. "How was it?" Nikolai shrugged. "If you had seen it, you could tell me." "I got here later than I expected." He hesitated. "You said you wanted to talk." His own boldness surprised him, but he wanted to end the suspense. "I owe you an apology," said Nikolai, "about the photographs." He paused. "I wanted you to know me, but I did it badly. I shouldn't have shown them. I hope you'll forgive me." Whiting was taken aback. Nikolai's apology embarrassed him, but he was also flooded with relief. "I'm not sure I even know how to answer you." "Well, you could accept my apology," Nikolai smiled. "Forgiveness may have to come later." "You surprise me," said Whiting. "Well, I hope that's a good thing. The circus should always surprise." Whiting took a long swallow from his glass, and Nikolai reached over and refilled it. The gesture was familiar, confusing. "When I was a child," said Whiting, "the circus was considered exotic, even dangerous." "The circus is art. We celebrate what human beings are capable of. Isn't that what beauty is? A celebration of something uncommon, something done well." "Many mistrust the circus." Whiting thought of his mother's comments when he told her about the blessing. "They think it's dark, even sinister." "There is beauty in the darkness, too," said Nikolai, "but people deny this. They fear what they do not know." They sat in silence as a trainer exercised one of the horses in the field below. Whiting watched as the animal circled its handler, then reversed direction. All at once, he realized that both animal and human cast shadows. He looked over his shoulder to find the source of the illumination. Oh my God! He turned to Nikolai with delight. They're bathed in moonlight. He turned back to the scene with new pleasure. It's said that Gustav Mahler painted moonlight on his lover's bedroom floor. Nikolai's words held Whiting like a soft embrace. For a moment, both men were silent. Whiting took another drink and listened to Nikolai's breathing, took in the smell and texture of his presence. "The cicadas," said Nikolai, "their song is so mournful." Whiting listened to the sounds in the darkness that surrounded them. His chest constricted, as if his heart was tender, exposed. He pressed 2 fingers to his chest to test for the soreness he was sure he'd find. "Why do you think it's sad?" "We see the world through the lens of our own hearts, Samuel. For me, sadness is never far away." Whiting leaned back in his chair and tried to slow his own breathing. He was lightheaded, unsure of what was happening. "You're noticeably silent, Sam. Am I being too personal?" No, not at all." Thousands of fireflies descended upon the field and signaled among the trees, the grass. Whiting had the sensation that he was floating among them. "And you? How do you see the world, Samuel?" "People come to me when they're sad or worried. Outside of that, I'm invisible." Whiting was surprised at his honesty, but once the words were out, he was glad he'd said them. "That's the first time I've ever told anyone how I really feel." "Ah, the disappearing shaman. I have heard stories about your tribe." Nikolai filled their glasses again. "High in the mountains of South America is a sect called the Monks of the Transformation. That's the loose translation anyway. Knowing about them will support or undermine your faith." "How could they undermine my faith? The Catholic Church recognizes the concept of transformation." He had meant to say transubstantiation, but the liquor had affected him, and he did not correct himself. Nikolai continued, "These monks take disease from people, and they carry it for them." "Oh, so they're healers, medicine men." "No," said Nikolai, "spiritual masters. They remove suffering, they take it upon themselves, and they carry it." "If that were true, your monks would be world-renowned. There would be no disease." Whiting felt woozy. "There are not many of these monks," said Nikolai. "Only the most gifted among them attain this power. Besides, the magic is not in taking the burden, but in learning to balance it, in learning not to die under the weight of it." He glanced over at Whiting. "And at the end of their lives, they disappear." "Oh, so this is just a story," said Whiting. "No, not at all. When the monks prepare to die, they break up dishes, burn belongings, destroy their meager houses. Finally, when everything that could prove their existence on earth is gone, they go into a remote cave to die alone. They even brush the mouth of the cave with branches so that they leave no footprints." "Why would they do such a thing?" "Some say that they view death as a failure, a source of shame. I think they do it so that they can keep their burdens from escaping, even in death." "So you see it as an expression of faith?" "They try to end another's suffering, as do you, Samuel. It's heroic." Whiting let the silence stretch between them. At last he spoke, his voice a whisper. "I have never done anything heroic." Nikolai waited. "I do not believe you." Neither man spoke, and Whiting again turned to the flickering lights in the field below them. How can there be so many fireflies, beautiful, silent, luminescent in the darkness? Thank you.